Okay, we're rolling. This is my first time doing a live broadcast of a presentation. So I'm on the internet today. Thank you for coming to our session. I'm Joe Hadfield. This is TD Wilcox. We have enough of us here. I think we could do introductions for all of us so we all know each other. Well, should we start here?
Okay. I'm Carolyn Andrews from BYU Online here on campus.
Krista Tripodi from the College of Engineering and Technology.
Rebecca Bean from the Office of IT.
Marla Olson from the Faculty Center.
Paulina Campbell, also.
Okay, so we've got all BYU today in the session here in the room and maybe others watching on the broadcast. Can you see the screen okay from the back? Okay. This is a photo from last winter. I'm the guy on the right. No, you're left. I'm the guy on the left in the dark blue jacket. And we have an annual winter retreat up at Aspen Grove, and we take snowshoes from Outdoors Unlimited. Even though all of my coworkers are more athletic than me when they're not in the snow, I've got this advantage in the snow. It's called long legs. You know, there's 3 feet of powder that we're trying to race through. We have this annual race to see who can get from the trail to this tree across the meadow. And I think this is a good metaphor for project management, because as you can see, we get started. I had a plan. I was sailing through the snow. Everything was going fine. And you've probably been there before when a project gets going and you think this is working. That look on my face is how we all feel when the plan is coming into place. And then something happens. And you can see here my face is starting to change because I can tell I've lost my balance. Even though I'm still standing upright and all outward appearances are that I'm still on my feet, I know it's over. We have a problem. And unfortunately, there's a photographer capturing all of it. I'm buried under the snow, and then I look up to see who beat me to the finish line. And one thing that I love is that the last photo, if you look close, since there's all the white light popping into my eyes, you can see my freaky eye. I've got one eye that's brown and one eye that's blue. So that's one of the photos that shows it off. When I'm indoors with artificial light, it doesn't really pop. But the guy who wins the race comes back, picks me up, and helps me to the finish line. And this is TD's role on our campus at BYU. TD's worked for me for 2 months now.
Yeah, about that.
And I hired him just to work for everyone else on campus. So he does content strategy, just ideation, audience research, just for the sake of helping other departments go through and think about their content in a fresh way. Because as BYU is entering a new branding guideline paradigm, when you're doing a new project, it's probably also a good time to think through, what is our content doing? How is it performing? How is it being received? And so that's his, well, I'd say full-time job, but he's a part-time student employee. His job is to help other units on campus generate ideas and analyze how their content's performing. So part of our motive for presenting here is just to sell him.
How do we reach you?
I'll give you my contact information.
Okay.
Honestly, we're going to have a little bit of extra time since there's so few of you. We plan to help
Yes.
and actually get in contact and start working with you right now.
Yeah.
So there's 3 things that we really focus on when we're going about these redesigns. We want to make sure that we know our audience, that we simplify the message that we're sending to them, and then we also want to always make sure that we're having an innovative mindset. We want to make sure that we're anticipating the needs of our users, while at the same time providing them with every single thing possibly want or need. And it has to be a very simple process. If we really sum up the idea of designing content, it is focusing with the idea that we are not our own target audience. When we are redesigning websites or going about the design process, we have to think not how I would use this, but how the person, how the students, how the faculty, how everyone else that is going to be using this on a daily basis is interacting with the site. So you have to put away your own personal biases in a way to focus on them. Some of the ways that we can do this is by looking at how they're using the site right now. The tools up here of Hotjar, Crazy 8, Google Analytics are good ways to jump in and start seeing how the users are interacting with the site. The Hotjar and Crazy 8, they give you heat maps that allow you to go in and see exactly where every single person has been clicking, what links are being used, what links aren't, how long people are staying on your site. Another thing that we do, if we're not getting enough information from the analytics, because a lot of the times it's hard to read through all that, is we go out and ask them. Talk to the people, or screen record the users as they're using your site to see exactly how they're getting from point A to point B. A lot of interesting information comes from that. And finally, we want to make sure that we make the journey as simple as possible. If Dora the Explorer is mapping her route from point A to point B, we should as well. It makes it really simple if we know exactly where they need to go and focus on cutting down the number of steps so they can get there quick.
One area or one place that I think does this well with understanding their audience is Salt Lake Community College. I was looking at their page, and there's several things I want to point out that I like about it. First of all, I think they get that front pages are meant to be an introduction. In our day and age where just Googling it is really, really effective, people who are repeat users of your website, they understand the terms that they need to Google to get in straight to the tool. And so they're bypassing a front page. There used to be the dominant way of getting around the internet was going to an organization's front page, using the menu and taking this long path. But those of us who are experienced customers or employees or students with an organization know how to bypass. So front pages are an introduction to those who are getting to know you. And you see they dedicate so much of their space to that. They've even got 2 buttons for applying, one in Spanish, one in English. I would really love to see the analytics on how they're used. Even if there's a big skew towards the English, it's probably a really important signal that this is a little bit of a sign of what the campus culture would be like, that they're accommodating to those who are still learning English. But they've done something also. You see, where's their intranet? That's actually the highest profile as far as like most top left action there is. So they're taking care of their core users, their students and employees, with that one prominent button. But everything else on the page, the content is directed at people who are prospects.
Question.
Yes.
Which one are you referring to?
The My SLCC. I'm assuming that's their intranet, like the My BYU. And so tools that a faculty member or a student need, like an LMS or class roles or things, I'm assuming they're behind the intranet. I haven't been able to log in and see, but that's where you take care of those who are the people who work for you and are already part of your organization. If you scroll down on the front page, I thought this was pretty darn cool that they get the journey that their students are on, that SLCC is meant to be a bridge, and that's its primary value. They're not sitting here showcasing how a certain program is ranked. They offer associate's degrees, and they're good associate's degrees, but they're only good in the sense of where they're going to take you. And so they're deciding to just present, here's where you get to go from SLCC. Pretty cool that they've got the percentage breakdown of where their graduates go. Let's see. 2.5 years ago, we did a web audit of BYU websites. Some of you may have been involved with that. Hired an outside consultant to review it. And this was the feedback on the BYU websites collectively that we received. And I want to make the point that feedback is a blessing, because if nobody says this to you, you don't realize you're losing your balance. So not exactly the tone that we want to hit, the voice that we want to hit when we're talking to prospective students, similar to a financial institution website targeting individuals age 30 and older. Whoops, we missed it. We missed the mark. So as we were brainstorming, what can we do? We thought, if it's hard to find things and if the voice is off, is there a way of adding a student voice to the homepage? Some of you may have noticed that we added a live chat to BYU.edu. Has anybody used that? Okay, because you already know your way around this campus. But the people who don't know their way around this campus use it a lot. In fact, I've grabbed some of the excerpts from this week's live chat. You can tell it's midterms based on what they're asking.
Worthen's email.
What? I wonder what Dylan wanted to ask President Worthen. Right. It was interesting. It was probably a good thing I had this presentation assigned because I was reviewing more of the chats this week, and I spotted that one, and they gave out his email address. And so I called the president's office and I said, "Do you want them giving out his address?" And they said, "No, we want them giving out his executive assistant's address." So we were able to change a couple processes on campus. Not only the chat, but the app, the BYU app, up until yesterday, had his email address listed instead of his executive assistant. So there's a blessing for having an assigned presentation. I was paying more attention to the chats. Here's some stats on it, the first 12 months of our live chat usage. I was thrilled. We get about 2,000 a month. The reason we did this was to help those who are new to our organization feel integrated, get plugged in. And the new student orientation day on September 1st was our big spike. They did some smart advertising. Well, all it took was one quick announcement at a new student orientation event. Didn't take long, just said live chats on the homepage. And 900 people used it that day, got plugged in, figured out the services they need. So we were totally thrilled. And I think that we're achieving the right voice because of the ratings. You know, if 90% of the people who leave a rating are happy, then we're suddenly hitting that right voice. We're trying to be helpful. One thing that you may be thinking, well, I don't have a staff of campus operators to help with the live chat. I've seen a few organizations use AI. Have you guys seen that before? Where if you build a library of common questions and their answers, the AI bot can figure out how to get people most of the way there, and then it will hand off to a person if they didn't get what they needed. You've seen stuff like that, right?
Yeah, so I was actually attending the Silicon Slopes event a little while back in Salt Lake, and there was an absolutely amazing AI bot. They didn't have a program or an app to go throughout the event. It was just the AI bot that was there. It's half AI, half person, and it was doing just as Joe was saying. It allowed us to find, where's parking for the event? And Salt Lake is kind of a problem. And it would tell us exactly where. It was like, there's no parking here, and tell it. And then it would take me to somewhere else. What room number is this? When is this going on? And it had answers for all these things, and it just made it a seamless experience. And it saves also a lot of bandwidth from their servers, because they didn't have to create an app that's a gigabyte, have people constantly streaming the information. It was just a simple text in and out. Simple information to them, exactly when they wanted it. So one of the things that we want to focus on is the simplification process. Simplifying is essential when you're going about these redesigns. There's 3 tools that we really like to focus on at the very beginning phases, and the first one is pruning. The pruning one is really getting rid of the excess. It allows for you to take, like the apple orchards, you trim off some of the branches so that there's enough room for the fruit to grow and to be used to grow to its maximum potential and to be used to its maximum potential. If you have all those things in there, then it starts to kind of hurt the tree. It hurts the usability of the site. Another thing is we like to talk about is mapping. It is such an important tool. It allows you to just really make the user's experience that much more simple. And the last one is cleaning. A lot of sites from the desktop era had a lot of stuff on there. I mean, really the commonplace thing was to stick all your information in one place so that no one had to go anywhere else. Now it's getting rid of the clutter to allow it to be more clean, presentable, and seamless.
A lot of you guys remember this BYU.edu? I think it was 2009 when it launched, and at the time it was really, when we look back at the analytics or the statistics for web usage, this page was launched right before mobile web browsing became a thing. And so you can kind of tell that in the design. We've got 2 layers of navigation, the top role-based navigation, then the topic-based navigation, and then the huge drop-downs. And when it was launched, my predecessor, Brent Harker, did some surveys afterward. It was received really well. People liked it. This was a very effective presentation for the time when people were using laptops and desktops to get what they wanted. And it was also before people were just Googling it to get straight to a tool. Back then when we Google things, we were just looking for front pages. And Google hadn't really gotten good at handing us directly to through the back door to the tool that, not back door, side door. Side door is what I call it. But Google's now really good at getting you through a side door to the page on your site that people need. This didn't, over time as mobile browsing became more common, this created challenges for people trying to navigate those multiple layers of navigation and mega drop downs on a phone. And the feedback, it's hard to find things, popped up a lot. I'd add to that something that you can probably sympathize with, just the sort of political bloating that happens with a website. You have a department chair or a manager in this area who says, we need this link added. We need this link added. No one ever comes to you and says, we need this link taken off. And so are you familiar with this process? You've seen this happen in your area?
Yes.
We need this added. Did you have a comment or to add to that? Okay. And it just gets a little bloated. And so as we go through and looked at the analytics, we saw some things that we needed to prune. You're familiar with the home page today. Rather than having drop downs, we have section pages. So we've got these 4 sections. In the previous slide, this is the academics drop down. Its equivalent now is this page, and it's organized so that we've got our very top links, the ones that are used the most, are in this section and prominent. The academic calendar is a highly requested and utilized item, so we integrated that onto the page. There's a second list of less commonly used links that appear below. The process that we took had 2 phases. We had begun our design and our research process for the new homepage starting in 2016, but we wanted to take some action and get a little bit less clutter before we even launched. And so we looked at some redundancies. We used the Crazy Egg tool to say, okay, if we have one link in the topic-based menu and that same link in the role-based menu, which one was getting used? And it was really nothing more sophisticated than taking out the lesser used link, where there were 2. And so that's why that first phase in 2016, we get from almost 240 links, and then we get under 180 with the same existing page design. And then by the time we got to the new homepage, we're down there where we're about 80 links, and very much based on the usage. Some of the tools that went away exist also in my BYU and are meant to be internal tools that the audience that's getting to know you doesn't need. And so some of the things we've left for my BYU. Some of the other things that went away, we've left, they're still visible in search. And if they're not getting the search engine juice they need, partner with people to say, how do we get this higher up in the results? And just monitoring our live chats to see that we're handing people off who have that specific need that's not met with the navigation. I was really surprised pleasantly by the reception of the changes, because after all that years of political bloating, when I go out and present to a vice president or director that here's how things are going to look differently and here's why, there was a lot of buy-in. And so I echoed that to you as you're making changes. Having data to support what you're doing goes a long way.
Just real quick, one other thing. Transition.
Oh yeah.
Is just the idea of you really want to make sure that your front page is pitching to those who aren't already active users of your site. In this case, we're not pitching to the employees or the students who are already here. The front page is for those first-time users or those who aren't part of BYU who are looking at that front page and trying to get an idea of what BYU is. What are the interesting things going around? It's cleaning up all the stuff that can be encapsulated somewhere else. It can be moved to places where only students that are going to use it can see it. So that, when my little sister who's looking at BYU and trying to apply right now, well, back then, can go on and see only the cool stuff of BYU, only the stuff that'll really, make it like, wow, I want to go here, or wow, this is a cool page. It's taking a page and making that wow factor present.
I agree with you. I think you should do that. What did you say to people to get their buy-in on that? Who maybe think, oh, I feel like this is for faculty and staff and current students and not so much for, like, what data did you use? Or
so
probably Joe.
A lot of the data that I look at when I'm going about other people's redesigns right now is looking at and finding, okay, where are these sources coming from? Because through Google Analytics and through Crazy, you can see exactly where the people are coming from and how long people are staying on the site. So when you're looking for people who are, already your students or faculty, they usually bounce within a couple of seconds because they come to your site and click and go somewhere else immediately. But those who are staying on your site and engaging for a while is where you can find, what are they looking at? It's just looking at the engagement through Google Analytics, and through that, the longer the engagement, the less familiar they are with your site.
I'll add one example to your question. Right now we have a campus life section on the front page, and traditionally we've had a link to the sustainability website from byu.edu, and that's Vice President Evans' area. Sustainability as a link, just a one-word link from the homepage, got no traffic. Nobody was looking for sustainability. And it makes sense because it's the kind of thing that if you're interested in that topic, you'll probably Google something like, what is BYU doing about sustainability, BYU sustainability, and you might find that page that talks about the building certifications and recycling. But if you're on the front page and you just see a link saying sustainability, there's no real appeal to it. But what was valuable was the transportation page within sustainability. So the ride sharing, the ride shuttle, and the UTA links, parking. So that was something within the sustainability page that did have value. And so we linked over to the transportation page from Campus Life and showing, look, this is what people really want on our site from you. So we're going to point to that instead of the front, into their hierarchy is sustainability is the first thing and transportation's the something within, because we need to get people straight to that. So that's an example I don't think in that case they were totally happy that sustainability got cut out, but the data showed nobody's clicking. So they couldn't at least argue with me, even though I think they want people to be interested in that. So okay, if you want to come up with a marketing campaign, we can drum up interest in sustainability, but as a link itself, it's not cutting it.
So step counting, it's a very important thing. For us, a lot of steps is really good. I keep track of my steps all the time, making sure I'm getting above that 8,000 step goal per day. But for our web users, it's the exact opposite. It makes it a bad experience. And so I'd like to tell you about an experience that I had just this last semester. Last term, as I was in my, my intro to a global supply chain class. I was, every single one of my classes, I start by going to Learning Suite. And this is just me trying to get to the textbook so I can study. I'm trying to get to go in there and just find anything. And really almost every process in this one was about the same. So, I go from my login page on CAS. Usually I go to the home page first and then get to this. Then I go here, find my business management 200 course, and then I got to click there. That one takes me here. And from here, I got to click on that part again, the business M200. It's the only thing that's on the page. Got to click it again, which then takes me to here. I then now have to click on My Labs and Mastery, which takes me to here, which then tells me to open My Labs and Mastery. Now I'm in My Labs and Mastery. and I got to go and find the textbook. So I have to go to the Pearson eText part. And then at the Pearson eText part, I got to press the Pearson eText again. And finally, I've made my way to the textbook. And now I still got a couple steps to find whatever I was looking for or wherever I left off. For me, it was a hard process. It made it so I didn't want to look at this book ever. And honestly, I probably looked at it 1 or 2 times the entire semester, not solely because of this, but this was not helping my experience. If this step were to get, to be changed, it could be something as simple as, My Labs and Mastery here skips this step and it just goes into here. It's cutting down the number of steps to make it so that the process is as seamless as possible. When it took me 8 steps to get to my textbook, the textbook was hardly ever used. But with my other online textbooks, like the My Educator program for the business school, 3 steps away. And I used it every day. And so it really makes a difference from the user perspective of just how many steps things are away. And it's taking this idea and applying it in your sites, making it so one link, if they're looking for something, can just be found and they can go to it instantly rather than having to go through the whole process. Another example that we have is where we're jumping out.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I really love living in Provo because I like BYU sports. Anybody here BYU sports fans? Favorite team? Which sport?
I mean, I'm cheer for BYU. I just don't attend anything.
Doesn't matter. Don't attend anything. There's a lot going on the new BYU Athletics website because they have a lot of teams. The fans are intensely interested. There's a lot of stuff that they use. And so one of the things that they, for example, my kids like baseball, and I saw that there was a game last night. And I thought, well, let's figure out when we can go to a game. So if you go to sports baseball schedule, that's a pretty quick journey to figure out when the next game is. I was happy with that. Wow, it was really just 1-2, I'm there. And you can see, cool, Tuesday night they're playing UVU. That is awesome. A crosstown rivalry. We're not busy that night. We could pull this off. But then things get a little weird because it says tickets on the UVU specific event, but I have to back away from the event specific material. Now I'm at a home page again. What you could, we go another click, another click, another click, and then more scrolling again. I'm repeating the same actions that we had on the last page. Maybe I passed it. And so now I'm at the page where I could buy the tickets. But there ought to be a way of just automating that those links on the schedule page match the links on the ticket page, so I went straight here. So those are the kinds of processes we can do to anytime our users are more than 2 steps away from content that they really need, we should thoroughly look at, can we do better? Can we make it shorter? Now, so are we jumping back in?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. All right, this is where we're at, right?
So really just the basic idea of step counting and going through the math is to just make that process as simple as possible. Don't make extra steps where there doesn't need to be any. If that link for the tickets were at a different spot, I guarantee it would drive up ticket sales just because, oh, I'm at a home page and my attention span's gone, so I'm not going to buy the ticket. And just stuff like that happens a lot with users using the web. There's a lot of data out there now and a lot of psychological studies based on the attention span on websites. And it's good to look into those because it reveals how long and how many steps we can make our users take before they will quit. So now we want to move into another part of simplification. And this is an example that we have with one of the people that I've been working with. It's Aspen Grove. At Aspen Grove, they're doing amazing things with their redesign, and their website looks head over heels amazing now. And they're just continuing to add. But one of the problems that we found as I was consulting with her is she mentioned that she was on the phone for several hours just about this page here. You know, people come in, and Aspen Grove is a kind of retreat type place where you can go and kind of have like a little family retreat, or go in there, have a family reunion. It's up in the woods, nice, you know, recreational area. But there are several different options of ways to stay. The accommodations page in the past looked like this, where they have all the information there, it's all in one place, but it's confusing. And users would call them, okay, well, I have a party of this size, and what if I stay at the Aspen Lodge? How much would that cost me? And what if I stayed at the Board Cabin? And it would just be something like that. The conversation would go on and on. They'd run numbers. They'd say, well, oh, you can't actually do that because there's a minimum occupancy of this much, or there can only be so many people at this place. So what we decided to do is take all of this information and simplify it as much as possible. Encapsulate what users don't really need to see. And so we continued on, and we decided to turn it, and this is still a rough draft in the making, but we decided to change it and move it over to kind of like, you know, how car websites have their, you know, models built out there on the page. If you want, you know, this model here, you can go this one, or this one, or this one.
Those are still the car prices.
And those are still the car prices. I literally took that from Honda and just stuck it up there, and then put this over there just to get an idea of what this would be like. And so now on the site, if anyone wants to, they can come in here, and this is underneath the accommodations page. Instead of that chart, it's now a mosaic showing like all the different places that they can do, and then it clicks in and goes to the nice showing of everything that's there, the layout of the places. But now underneath that is a price calculator. So instead of calling Aspen Grove, they can input, okay, we have this many adults, this many teens, this many children, and those all have different prices. And it would tell them what their base price is before adding accommodations. And then automatically in real time, we take that information and update these prices so that it would allow them to get an idea of what every single option that they have would cost. And it gets rid of those 5 hours of phone calls a day that they're getting during family camp season. It's a simple way to change the content and make it more simple. But it's doing it in an innovative way that allows them to save time and display it even in a better, more presentable way. And that's really what the simplification process is. It's taking things, condensing information, and hiding what the, you know, encapsulating what the users don't really need to see. Putting it behind the curtain so that they can just worry about what pertains to them. And that's how many people are coming, what the price is in this case. So this is just one example, but there are many examples that you can find within your own sites. Many small little things that can be changed to make it cleaner and more simple.
Yeah, I got next. Real quick, your roles here. How many of you are developers? I know Rebecca's a developer. Is everybody else more of the content management and direction? That's my job. So no offense to Rebecca, but I've actually heard from people, and I believe this, that planning your content in some regards is actually harder than the development. You know, Rebecca's put in a lot of time figuring out the language of coding and trial and error and learned a lot of things. But when something that Rebecca does fails, there's a clear warning, and she gets that immediate feedback, this broke, and she knows that she's got to fix it. When something we do fails, there's not necessarily that clear warning. You don't get that little dinosaur saying, this page isn't working. There's no warning that says your content's confusing. It doesn't come back to you that way. And so that's, I think, part of the harder part of what we do is that unless we go out and actively solicit and validate whether our content is working, or whether our organization for our content is successful, we can be oblivious to some of the gaps that we have, where she's never oblivious to the gaps she has. She has that immediate warning, this broke, right? Is that fair to say?
For the most part.
For the most part.
No, I totally agree.
But there, you know, she's never totally blind to where something went wrong with her work. So that's the importance of going out and knowing your audience. When you find their needs, simplifying around those needs. And the last thing I'll add is to not get comfortable just doing the same thing, because we're going to talk about this mentality of wouldn't it be great if. So as TD's talking to Aspen Grove and they're hearing like, oh, that's a big pain point that you spend a lot of time reviewing costs on the phone. That's a waste of the employee's time, and it's a frustrating aspect for the experience of the customers. So wouldn't it be great if they could make a cost calculator, cut things in half? And if you're the person who has that content idea, you go talk to somebody like Rebecca, she's like, totally, I can make that. And not to diminish her skills, but somebody's got to come to her and say, this is the thing that we need. So another one that we're doing, this is with the campus map system. We've the map.byu.edu site is part of my my area, and we didn't really have a sustainable database. The student that had built it 7 years ago built it away in .NET. It's hard to find .NET developers on campus. So we found a partner in the library to put this in the ArcGIS system. So they're going to take care of the database now, and we're just consuming the data on a website. I'm a lot more comfortable with the arrangement because we're not equipped to do the database mapping info. And I thought, great, we're done. I don't have to worry about the map for years. And then somebody else comes along with a wouldn't it be great if idea. And I thought, oh, shoot. So wouldn't it be great if you could have augmented reality? What if you had within the BYU app the ability to just say, map my classes, take me to my class right now. And you held up your phone, and your phone would look at what's in front of you and show you this way or that way, and you could just walk around. Wouldn't that be great during women's conference too?
Would be great most of the time.
Right, most of the time. But on women's conference, if you've ever walked across the campus as an employee, you get stopped 5 times between buildings, helping somebody do wayfinding, right? And so it was one of those, if it were up to me, we just leave the map as is, but somebody thought we should do this. So this year we're doing a little bit of a pilot just to see if we can get people from building to building. And if we can prove that concept, then we're going to get funding for the next year to get the data for every individual classroom so that we can integrate that into the app. That will be so valuable, and I hope we pull it off. I'm excited about trying, even though it wasn't my idea. I thought, dang, we just got done with the map. But if we could pull this off, it would be such a blessing to so many people, new students, visitors, and the rest of us who need to get quickly to our meeting, right? I've skipped. There we are. Oh, I want to jump back out. TD has got something about his major to show off that we spotted on campus. This was really cool.
So another example of another project that I had for class, of course, is I'm in my management communications class, and we have to do a project where we're
why is it not sharing?
I think we're still, you have to press escape on the PowerPoint.
Oh, thank you.
And I was trying to find information about my major so that I could present it to the class. We had to create a flyer for prospective new students, just as an example of how to do writing, persuasive writing, and get it to the students. And I tried to find all this information, and I really couldn't. And sadly, I couldn't find the site until, last week when we were going over this presentation. Joe was just like, hey, this is an amazing thing that someone did. And it shows here all of the data of the placement of the students in the IS program, in the information systems program, full-time, part-time. I mean, if I want to find someone, say, Anderson the other week was talking about some jobs in Texas that he was.
Oh, you want to look there?
Yeah, so let's go over to Texas and find out what jobs in Texas he might be talking about. And I think I remember him talking maybe about what was it? Airlines. He was talking about airlines and how he had gone over there, opened some more doors for us, because Professor Anderson is an amazing guy who has really opened a lot of internships and full-time opportunity jobs for students. And so if we go over here in the placement list on the side there, I think you can scroll down and just find the companies, all of the jobs in Texas that he might have opened up. And it looks like it might be United States Airlines, but in general,
Whoops, there we go.
Here are all the jobs. Every single student has been placed from the BYU program, information systems or master's program of information systems in the last several years. All of the data is up here. I can see where every single person went, how much they made, how long they've been there. I don't know, but it's just cool to me as someone who's thinking about going into information systems. Here's everything I could possibly want to know. And this is just one feature of the site. But wouldn't that be great if that was there for every major to find out, hey, this is where they've been placed. This is where they're going. This is all this stuff. Professor Anderson talked about Paraveda Solutions, and that would be amazing to go work there. Let's see how much people are making there. Look, the full-time salary is 72, and they're not just in Texas. Looks like over in at least LA, San Francisco, maybe area, all over the place. It just taking what I could possibly ever want and putting it up there for me. And once again, this is just one part of the site. It's changing our mindsets from, okay, what is the bare minimum that our students need? What is the outline? And taking our outlines as we currently have them and expounding them, making them better, more interactive. What will get users to engage with our site? I mean, I could have spent probably a good half an hour just looking at this information here. When was the last time someone spent a half an hour on any of our sites, just to look at some data? So it's really having the mindset of going, how can I make this as beautiful as I can for the students, or for my users, or for my employees? It's taking what is there and not being content with it, but really stepping out and going, putting that extra leg forward to make it better. These kind of small decisions will make a big deal. And really that was as simple as taking an Excel spreadsheet, sending it over to Tableau, and that's a real-time thing that they just put in their site.
Yeah. Anybody familiar with Tableau? Do you use it? Cool. What do you use it for?
All of our reports.
Okay. Is that Sam McKnight too that you work with on that? Sam is presenting on Tuesday afternoon at our WebFest, and they'll do a little bit more. They'll show you a little bit more about Tableau if that's something that you're interested in. The IS Career Services team that built that tool that we just showed you, they'll be presenting as well. Students make that, and it's such a cool piece of content that meets a need. Wouldn't it be great if you could show your prospective majors and your majors where the jobs are and how much you make? So we want to transition here to talk about your areas. What's something that, what are you working on? What are you wondering about? How could we help?
So we really just have the rest of this 15-minute to exchange, possibly go over some ideas and to just kind of help you as much as we can. Of course, I'm available to help you guys at any time, well, Tuesday, Thursdays, and Fridays, but it's just how can we help you? How can we help you guys be innovative? Where you can cut things out? How can we teach you to use the data that you have to better identify your users' needs? So if you guys have anything that you want to brainstorm together, because I'm just one head, but I'm sure that you guys through your sites have had other experiences as well that would be good for other sites. So if you guys have anything now that you'd like to go over, open the floor to you guys.
We were still working on user testing for it, but I just got the assignment to redesign the My BYU. And so yeah.
What a fun project.
Yeah.
We'd love to help with that.
Oh, and it's cool because we set up in the Wilkinson Center and just handed out granola bars to whoever would fill out some information about what they used, and so we've already kind of gotten some feedback through Gartner and some others as far as what we're doing right and what we can do better. But it's just kind of cool because a lot of these students, they already have pain points with these different tools that we use on campus. And they're more than happy to tell you for a fun-sized candy bar or less, nothing, some of them didn't want anything for it. They're just like, I just want this fixed. Like, and
Yeah.
so I think it's really cool that like sometimes we're afraid to ask because, you know, we think that nobody really wants to be interrupted, but a lot of these people actually want to get
Yeah,
Let me tell you, students have opinions.
they do. Well, and faculty do too, right? And the so are you heading down the road where you're designing My BYU to be? Are you building a specific experience to those roles, like a student My BYU and a
faculty. It'll pull up different. Or the idea right now, anyway, is that there are ones that students primarily use, and there's ones that faculty primarily use, and those will be preloaded, and then they can just kind of customize from there.
Okay. Maybe Marla has something she wants to advocate for, right? For the employee interface. What do employees need on an intranet?
Well, actually, I was just thinking, I'm not sure if faculty have been asked.
We're working on
Okay.
sending that out.
Well, maybe they could,
Through Wilkinson, but there's not too many faculty walking by.
but perhaps they could be a reviewer on the survey questions, right?
Mhm.
Because you might be able to spot something else that could be added on to as far as where you take the questions.
Yeah, we noticed, this is just from the front page being done, we noticed all of a sudden the faculty didn't have a.
The role-based menu went away.
Yeah, but if
Yeah.
it wasn't being used because the faculty go through My BYU, then maybe it wasn't
Yeah.
needed, and it was one of those things that we pruned. But we have our own faculty center website, and I know they collect the data on how many hits and things like
Yeah.
that, but maybe asking the faculty what would be most helpful, ask them the question,
Mhm.
what would you want this to do? You'll probably come up with a better design.
Yeah.
More user friendly.
One thing that was interesting to me,
Okay.
yeah, one thing that was interesting to me when we made the change is that we had done a first stab at pruning those lists. You know, some of the links went away in that one menu, but not the other, and nobody really flinched because we did it based on which ones were used. When we launched the redesign, there were 2 faculty members that called and said, "Where do I find my class roles?" And I thought, you were getting your class roles off the front page? I had no idea. Like, why was that a front page thing? Because it's so ultra specific to their one experience, and it's a totally internal tool. But the salience was really high. You know, the salience meaning the intensity of how much they needed it. So not a lot of people needed that, but the ones that did, they needed it a lot. And so we had to you combine the analytics with the human interviews and come up. This is a cool project.
Yeah, I'm excited.
I wonder if the staff and admin employees experience is different enough from faculty to present a different experience for them, or if there's so much overlap that you might as well put both, or maybe there's a faculty widget that appears for them and not the staff and admin. You think so?
The stuff I hear faculty talk about, I've never clicked on any of
Right,
those
they
things.
faculty profile and.
Yeah, faculty profile and
Boards and
information
things
like
like
I
that.
never touched Learning Suite, but faculty member all the time.
Staff
Yeah.
needs the financial page portal.
Right. Yeah, although some of those tools would, if you do the Venn diagram, right? Some of the tools like the financial stuff, faculty and staff need. And so it'll be an interesting process to come up. Looks like maybe at least 3 different experiences on the intranet. You know, I wonder about part-time people. Do they have anything that's different, like
There's white time.
white time, which it also overlaps with the student experience? Yeah. Cool.
And so, I mean, that'll be an interesting thing trying to figure out, because not every student is employed by BYU as a part-time employee, but like, it should be really obvious to them that they should be able to access Y time if they are a student employee.
Yeah.
Through the website.
This reminds me of one thing that our web audit found is that students and employees at BYU, even though we view these as different websites because we see the back end, they all think it's one website. You know, when we did research on the redesigned BYU.edu, people started giving feedback on, well, how come my BYU didn't change? Like, you know, and I'm sitting here thinking, well, we only I only have this end of it. I was like, well, to them, it's all one page. You know, it's your logged in experience versus your not logged in experience. And so, so with the online courses, with the registration, with Faculty Center, with engineering, they all think it's one website that just has lots of pages on it. So it was fascinating to think. We shouldn't lose sight of that. To them, it's all one thing. Well, I think we're at the ending time. I should have brought cards, but I think you guys know how to find us. I know Krista knows how to find me. But what's that?
You write it on the board.
Oh yeah, let's write it on the board so that you can grab our contact info, and we'd love to collaborate on whatever projects you're working on. You know, we don't have the development horsepower, but TD's whole job is to help other departments think about content. So use him. Oh, thank you for the applause, Rebecca.